weekend. All right, folks, and just want to remind you, if you have your any thoughts or questions, especially with regard to our next interview, you can go to our C Spire text line 601-879-4395. Please do not text and drive. All right, I'm happy to welcome our first interview for the midday morning. We've got Marty Pope, who is the senior hydrologist with the National Weather Service. Hi, Marty. How are you?
Good morning. It's a good. I have good news today, which is good. Makes it a very good morning.
Okay, great. Well, I'm excited. Let's just start with us. Tell us. We've heard some scary reports over the weekend about the crest and potential reach of flooding. Just read us into what's the latest status with regard to flooding in the Mississippi area.
Well, what's really good is a lot of our points that went above flood stage. You know, some of the rivers in central Mississippi, from along I-20 and just a little north of that to Meridian, those areas, most have actually dropped back down below flood. We still have a lot of flooding on the upper parts of the Pearl River area. Those people up in that area are still experiencing some flooding right now, but the rivers are falling. The only place we have a rise still is down, say, in the lower Big Black area towards the Edwards area. The little Big Black area between Edwards and, say, Vicksburg, they're still rising there, and it's going to leave just below moderate flooding there. And so there's some people live near the river there that do have issues there at that level. But luckily it's coming in lower than it's going to give them a real problem.
Well, that's good. So in other words, it won't be as far-reaching, the floods, that is, won't be as far-reaching as we initially thought?
Well, just looking at everything, like you said, the flash flood event is what caused all of these, all the heavy rainfall is what caused all these local rivers to start rising. Of course, there's a lag between when you get heavy rainfall and when the rivers start to peak and crest. And we're at, like I said, today in the Jackson area, we're seeing actually the river is beginning to crest in Jackson this morning. It's at 35, 37, and that is definitely lower than what we were anticipating earlier, which is very good news for everyone, because as far as I understand, there really were no, you got right to the houses, and up to some of the houses in the, say, Northeast Jackson and in the city of Jackson itself, but did not get in. There may be a few areas, structures in some places may have had issues, but as far as what we're seeing right now, looks pretty good. Northeast Jackson, the waters are falling pretty rapidly right now in Northeast Jackson. Ross Barnett Reservoir has dropped back about 15,000 cubic feet per second of water this morning, which is really good for us there. That's a big sign, because that causes the river to fall. And so that's just good news there. We're seeing the fall already occur all the way down to Lakeland Drive in Jackson, and we'll start seeing it later this evening, say around downtown Jackson.
Well, that is good news among bad news. It's good that it's not as bad as it could have been. Now, how long do you expect the flooding to last?
Well, what's interesting is one time we were projecting it would probably take a lot longer, but we're seeing such big falls above Ross Barnett Reservoir this morning that we're starting to see some fairly significant falls. The Ross Barnett Reservoir normal pool is at 297.5. It's actually up to 298. They were able to hold a lot of water, which has kept us from actually getting a higher crest here in the Jackson area. So we should not. It's going to really probably fall a lot quicker than we were thinking now. So even if things work at the best of now, we're thinking the worst would probably be it'll go below flood stage on the best to be going below flood stage on Thursday here in Jackson at the Jackson gauge. That would be very good news there. It could last just a little bit longer than that, because we've got a lot of water that's on the sides of the channel trying to get back in, so it may slow things down. But it's going to be a lot faster than it was initially anticipated.
Well, that's good. And look, we've got a couple questions coming in on the C Spire text line. Here's one asking if you could explain the link to determine the rainfall totals in Hattiesburg. Is that a complete question?
What was that one more time? Just repeat that for me.
Yeah, so one of our ceasefire text line listeners is wondering if you can explain the link to determine rainfall totals here in the Hattiesburg area.
Well, we had some really heavy rainfall just north of Hattiesburg. And that's what caused the Leaf River down there to approach flood stage the other night in Flood Chain Park at the same time there. There was at least some 5 to 6 inches in there at least in a very short period of time. On top of that, we were seeing other higher amounts through the area up to 6 or 7 inches in places.
And if folks want to find out more information about that, is there a website or a link online that they could find? You could direct them to?
Well, there's definitely places you can look for data like that. You could ask them they could email me at Marty, MARTY.POPE @NOAA.gov, and I can send them links to get to where they can see how much rainfall they've had.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so they can reach out directly to you. Certainly appreciate that.
Right.
Now, with regard to the flooding areas, could you talk a little bit about how can impact residents stay safe? What should they be considering before walking out the door when there's flooding like this going on around them?
Well, of course, when you walk out in it, you don't know what exactly is in the water, so you definitely do not want to walk out in the water or anything like that. Plus, on top of that, too, it makes the water we have sort of darker colored, so you never know if there's any holes or things like that you could fall into. So we want to make sure that people just don't walk around in water, don't drive into water, because you just never know what's underneath it sometimes. Even during the day, you can be can be deceived by the water itself.
Yeah, no, certainly. So if folks see floodwaters, the rule of thumb is just to avoid them. Stay away.
Absolutely.
You may have driven through that
we say
area.
Turn around, don't drown is what the Weather Service usually says on this.
Yeah, and I mean a rule to truly live by, especially in these instances. So if there's flooding like this in a place like Jackson, how can this surround some of the surrounding infrastructure? Does it create residual problems beyond just the water potentially cresting into and flooding into buildings and homes?
Well, we've had a lot of, if I understand your question, we have a lot of new areas that have grown up since 79. We had the big giant flood here in the city of Jackson. We've had all of Lakeland Drive areas have built up. They're filling in areas that were very low areas in the past. So of course that water's got to go somewhere. So it goes into other areas now. So that's the reason we have to really reevaluate every flood to make sure to see if water is going into another area that should not have gone in, that didn't go into before.
Gotcha. Well, once this subsides, what kind of season are we looking at ahead? Do you have any indication whether or not we'll be seeing other flooding along the lines of what we're experiencing right now?
Well, the last flood we had, so it was back in 2020, where we got about 1.5 feet higher than this. Generally, unless we have a tropical storm or a hurricane or something come across us, do we usually not get this kind of rainfall. This is very rare for us, at least here in the Jackson area in recent years, because I don't think we've ever had a crest from what I've seen, at least on my records, in August of this high. But we can get them because of, the tropical storms can do all this and drop a lot. But now we're really wet, so we're going to have to watch the rest of the hurricane season.
Yeah, certainly. And luckily, we've had a pretty quiet hurricane season so far. Hopefully that continues. Well, Marty, thank you so much for joining us, for telling us the silver lining, so to speak, with the flooding that folks in the Jackson area in particularly are dealing with. The Mississippi Emergency Management Agency deployed 126,000 sandbags. It's advised residents to take photos of valuables, save copies of important documents, elevate and anchor utilities, wires, and clear debris. Shelters are open in the Jackson Police Training Academy and the Madison United Methodist Church. All right, that's it. We got to take a quick break and we'll have more.